All praise to the Most High, AHAYAH, and to his son, AHAYAH'S, Messiah, AHAYAH. This is Brother Holly here with the first Spirit of Truth broadcast here on the AHAYAH'S channel, as well as the House of AHAYAH channel on this set-apart Sabbath day. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to the great I am, he who is, was, and is to come, the Almighty One, AHAYAH, and to his son, AHAYAH'S Messiah, who gave himself for us that we might have life, and that life is in him, AHAYAH. Now, in this first broadcast, children, we're going to be reading from the book called Gad the Seer. We're going to be reading the first chapter of it. It's a long read, and we'll be referencing and precepting from it as well as we go through it. And hopefully in the second broadcast, if AHAYAH wills it to be so, we will continue our study from Gad the Seer in chapters 2 and maybe even a little bit of chapter 3. But before we begin our study, I gotta adjust my chair. Sinking. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the book Gad the Seer, a lot of times you won't see it in a standard apocrypha. A lot of times you won't see it in standards collections of pseudepigrapha books. A pseudepigrapha book is a book that is basically attributed to one person that someone else probably wrote. But Gad the Seer is not found in the, I brought this out just for demonstration, the Old Testament, Old Testament pseudepigrapha, volumes 1 and 2. Now, I've looked through it, and Gad the Seer is not in it. So, the version of Gad the Seer that we will be looking at from the literal translation, and I've already vocalized my opinion of that particular translation, but it does contain Gad the Seer, and it's one of the only copies of Gad the Seer that I have at this moment to put my hand on. But we also know that according to First Enoch, chapters 104, that when the heathens got a hold of our text, they changed things and wrote wicked things in there. So we got to read texts that we know have been altered, and we have proven that the literal translation has altered text to say things that lead away from the children of Yasharahla being the chosen seed to being more of a universal salvationist approach. And that old lie of universal salvation, and that salvation and deliverance and redemption is for the every nation on the face of the planet, is cast down very successfully, even with case law, if you will, from Gad the Seer. And that's why I've determined during the coming weeks to stay in Gad the Seer for a while, precepting it as we go, in order to demonstrate that the more ancient and Hebraic the text, the more foundational the text becomes. And you'll see in a moment what I'm talking about. But before we even begin that, I recently received this. Is there another resource? The Messianic Left-Eye Interlinear Scriptures. And this is just volume 3 of the prophets. There's exactly 5 volumes of this. And volume 3 is this thick. It basically goes from Job all the way to Malachi. Volume 2 talks about for everything from, I believe, Joshua all the way through to the 2nd Samuel. And volume 1 is just the Torah, to include the book of Joshua. So, and the Gospels and Acts through Revelation is broken out in volumes as well. But with this particular resource, it's interlinear, so it has the ancient Hebraic, modern Hebrew, and it written out in English without the sentences being put together. So when you read it in English, it's just like it was delivered in the underlying language. So a lot of tenses, the tense is not there, periods and commas are not there. It's just text. So I find versions like this to be helpful when you're deciphering versions like this. Because you can look at the same two verses, one in a interlinear translation and one in a literal translation that the author of which was very liberal in sprinkling in his thoughts and beliefs into the text. But when you go back to the interlinear, you see that that wasn't what was intended at all to be said, and you'll be able to see, not only suspect, but see for yourself that the sacred text has indeed been tampered with, has indeed been manipulated, has indeed been there's been addition, subtraction. It's all over the place, just like it says in First Enoch, just like it says. And as we approach these last days, children, it says in the book of Daniel, knowledge is going to increase in the last days, and we can see truth, as it says in the book of Daniel, springing out of the earth. So as we get closer and closer, children, we're going to knowledge is going to increase. As some of you know, I mentioned a few weeks ago that AHAYAH has graciously allowed me to begin work on a clean read for us all. And I'm almost done with my graduate studies, children, and I just got one more hurdle to go. And once that one's over, just put in my application for graduation, and that will be that. And then all my my spare time can be devoted to the preparation for and the ascribing, if you will, of that new work. I don't undertake these things lightly. It will take a great deal of time because I want to precept as many verses in the scriptures as I can, so that you have a study reference. You and I will both have a study reference that we can use to increase our understanding and our learning as we move forward in this great adventure. All praises. And as I said earlier, we'll be coming out of the 120 Book Holy Bible, Apocryphal Collection, Literal Standard Version. And Literal Standard, I say tongue in cheek, because we've already proven this one's been tampered with. All praises. And as I stated earlier, Brother Holly, why are you reading from a tampered with version if you know it's tampered with? I just don't have another copy of Gad the Seer. So we'll read Gad the Seer and hopefully be led by the Ruach Kodashia in our reading of it, and let the Spirit lead us through precepting to what is and is not right. All praises. Gad the Seer, chapter 1. Let's start reading at verse 2. It says, "Thus saith AHAYAH, go be courageous and stand in the midst of the stream and cry with a great voice, tarry and hasten, tarry and hasten, tarry and hasten. For there is still a vision for the son of Jesse." Will you holler if you have it? To give you a little background, Gad was the seer for King David during his administration. And the Most High, the great I Am, is speaking to Gad and telling him that there's still a vision for the son of Jesse, who is David. That there's still something that the Most High wants David to know and to see. And he will see this and be told this through Gad, his prophet. Let's continue, verse 3. This is Gad, the words of Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 3. "And during the cry, face the eastern gate on the east side of the city, and stretch forth your hands toward heaven. And I did exactly what I had been commanded to do. And it came to pass, when I finished crying out, I opened my eyes and saw a yoke of oxen led by a donkey and a camel coming up from the brook of Kidron. The donkey on the right side of the yoke and the camel on the left. And a great voice like a roll of thunder was following them, crying with a bitter voice, Seer, Seer, Seer. These are four mixtures that confuse the people of Yahayah. Will you highlight if you have it? Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 8. For the impure and the pure have been mixed. Will you highlight? We can read from the New Testament that in 1 Corinthians, what fellowship, 2 Corinthians, I'm sorry, what fellowship has light with darkness? What fellowship of him that believes with him that is an infidel? Here, the pure and the impure have been mixed together. There's to be a separation of the pure and the impure. There's to be a separation of the righteous and the unrighteous. There's to be a separation of them that have a covenant and them that don't. We're told to come out from among them and be separate. Touch not the unclean, and AHAYAH will receive you, and you will be his sons and daughters, saith AHAYAH. Oh, praises. I'll read it again. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 8. For the impure and the pure have been mixed, and then impurity took control over purity. A mixture from Edom. Will you highlight? Wow. Throughout Gad the Seer, you'll see the Edomites being talked about. And one of the things that the Edomites have done, according to this writing that we're reading, is they've mixed themselves. The impure Edomite has mixed himself with the pure child of Jacob and taken over them. You see it today, don't you, child? You see these Edomites mixing themselves amongst the children of Jacob, mixing their seed with our seed, mixing their impure seed with our holy seed, and in mixing themselves with us, trying to take control of us, trying to take control of our resources, our wealth, our thoughts, what we put down on paper, what we can do with our hands, what we can do with our minds. These Edomites mixed themselves among us to try to take control over us. Let's read. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 8. For the impure and the pure have been mixed, and then impurity took control over purity, a mixture from Edom to rule over them. Verse 9. To increase power over. Here's the game plan of the mixed in amongst the children of Jacob, Edomite. Here's what the Edomite is mixed in among you to do. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 9. To increase power over and betray a righteous doer, to destroy holiness, to crown wickedness, to set up impure matters in the guise of purity. Wow. They set up an impure thing, an impure matter, and make it look like it's pure. You see some of these Edomites wearing fringes. You see some of these Edomites keeping Shabbat. You see some of these Edomites keeping the feast. But you rarely see an Edomite in these YouTube streets wearing white on the Sabbath preaching the truth. Oh, you might see them on the street, but you don't see them in a format such as this one, wearing white, speaking the truth. Look around these Hebraic YouTube streets. Look around the broadcast. Almost 100% of those who are on these channels, on the Sabbath, speaking from the word of truth, wearing white, and they look just like me. Wow. And 99% of them cry out to the Most High by the name he prescribed from the burning bush. 99% of them, excuse me, I bit my tongue. 99% of them cry out to the Most High by the name prescribed from the burning bush. 99% of them, the ones wearing white, preaching truth on the Sabbath, call out to the Most High by the name of AHAYAH or Yahayah. And they cry out to the name of his son by AHAYAH'S or just Yasha. That's how you can tell, child, who is of the truth and who isn't. It ain't hard. It's not confusing. And the Edomites have sown seeds of impurity amongst us and hid things in the guise of truth. Let's read it again. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 8. We'll read verse 8 again. For the impure and the pure have been mixed, and then impurity took control over purity, a mixture from Edom to rule over them. Verse 9, Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 9, to increase power over and betray a righteous doer, to destroy holiness, to crown wickedness, to set up impure matters in the guise of purity. And after the voice, a great shaking occurred that shook over the impurity and blew the donkey and the camel into the moon with a stormy wind. And the moon was open and looked like a bow, a semicircle, or a crescent moon. And both her points reached toward the ground, like that. And behold, the sun came out of heaven in the shape of a man, with a crown on his head, carrying a lamb over his right shoulder, despised and rejected. Who might that be, child? Who is the lamb that was despised and rejected? We can turn to Isaiah chapter 53 and read that. In Isaiah 53, the Messiah was referred to as the suffering servant who would die for the sins of his people. He was despised and rejected, a man acquainted with sorrows. This lamb being carried over the right shoulder of the one that appeared like a man who appeared like the sun, with a crown on his head, carrying a lamb over his right shoulder, and the lamb was despised and rejected. So read it again. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 13. Behold, the sun came out of heaven. The S-U-N, son, came out of heaven in the shape of a man with a crown on his head, carrying a lamb over his right shoulder, despised and rejected. And on the crown of his head 3 shepherds are seen, shackled with 12 shackles. And these shackles were of gold plated with silver. And the voice of the Lamb was heard, great and dreadful, like the voice of a lion roaring over his prey. Woe to me! Woe to me! Woe to me! My image has been diminished, will you highlight? Wow. The Lamb said, my image has been diminished. Who was trading off impure things as pure? We just read. Who did that? Edomites did that. And this lamb that was despised and rejected, he said his image been diminished. You got 2 images of the lamb that took away the sin of the world being the children of Jacob, according to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. That's why you precept, child. That's why you precept. The world was in the long garment with the breastplate, with the 3 rows of 4 stones, and the shoulder boards with 6 stones on each shoulder, representing the 12 tribes of Yasharal. That represented the whole world, according to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. Oh, I'm sorry, chapter 16. The whole world's represented there. And this lamb died for the sins of the whole world. And this lamb was despised and rejected. And this lamb cried out, woe unto me, my image has been diminished. And we just read, who did that? Edomites. Edomites did that. There are two images, aren't there? There's the true image, the pure image of the Messiah, as spoken of in the book of Revelation. And then there's this false image of the Messiah that's been propagated all over the world. Looks just like an Edomite. I'll read it again. Boy, y'all ain't heard nothing yet. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 14. And on the crown of his head had 3 shepherds are seen shackled with 12 shackles. And these shackles were gold plated with silver. And the voice of the Lamb was heard, great and dreadful, like a voice of a lion roaring over his prey. Woe to me, woe to me, woe to me. My image has been diminished. My refuge has been lost. My lot and destiny has turned me over to the spoilers. And I was defiled until even by the touch of impurity. We highlight. In the 9th hour, that lamb hanging on a tree on a hill called Golgotha was made sin who knew no sin. He was touched with our infirmities. He was wounded for our transgressions. That same despised and rejected servant in Isaiah 53, being spoken of here as the lamb in Gad the Seer, chapter 1. That same lamb was touched by impurity, was touched with the feelings of our infirmities, his soul was made sin on that hill. I'll read it again. And the voice of the Lamb was heard, great and dreadful, like the voice of a lion roaring over his prey. Woe to me, woe to me, woe to me, woe to me. My image has been diminished. My refuge has been lost. My lot and destiny has turned me over to my spoilers. And I was defiled until evening by the touch of impurity. And it came to pass, when the voice of the Lamb ceased speaking, behold, a man dressed in linen came with 3 vine branches and 12 palms in his hand. When you highlight, you see this 3 and 12 being repeated twice now. First, it was 3 shepherds and that were being held by 12 shackles. Now it's 3 vine dressers with 3 vine branches. With 12 palm branches in their hands. The 3 vine branches, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The 12 palms in their hands, the 12 sons of Jacob. But in the comment section, I'm crazy. I'll read it again. And it came to pass, this is words of Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 16. And it came to pass, when the voice of the Lamb ceased speaking, behold, a man dressed in linen came with 3 vine branches and 12 palms in his hand. And he took the lamb from the hand of the son and put the crown on his head and the vine branches and palms in his heart. Will you highlight? And the man dressed in linen cried like a ram's horn, saying, put the crown on his head. Oh, I'm sorry. Shalaki. Saying, what are you doing here, impurity? And how did you get here, impurity? That you have carved yourself a place to combine impurity with my covenant that I set with the vine branches and the palms. Will you highlight? The covenant has been set with the vine branches. The covenant was set with Abraham. The covenant was set with Isaac. The covenant was set with Jacob and with the 12 sons of Jacob. I'll read it one more time. If you have the Gad the Seer, the book Gad the Seer, look it up yourself. Chapter 1. Let's read it again. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 17. And he took the lamb from the hand of the son, put the crown on his head, and the vine branches and the palms in his heart. And the man dressed in linen cried like a ram's horn, saying, what are you doing here, impurity? We know who impurity is, don't we, from earlier in the chapter. Impurity are the Edomites that have been mixed with the people, been mixed with the chosen seed. What are you doing here, Edomite? Keep reading. And how did you get here, impurity? How did you get amongst us, Edomite? That you have carved yourself a place to combine impurity with my covenant. See, they trying to add to the covenant, try to write themselves into the covenant. Oh, wicked Edomite, that I have set with the vine branches and palms. And I heard the lamb shepherd say, the lamb shepherd, the one carrying the lamb on the shoulder, there is a place with me for the pure, but not for the impure. Will you highlight? See, there's a place with the Father only for the pure. Who are the impure? The Edomites. We know. How do we know that? We read it up. We read it earlier in the chapter. For I am a holy AHAYAH, and I do not want the impure. I only want the pure. Will you highlight? Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 20 again. And I heard the lamb's shepherd saying, there is a place with me for the pure, but not for the impure. For I am a holy AHAYAH, and I do not want the impure. I only want the pure. Even though verse 21, even though I created them both, and my eyes are equally on them both, but there is an advantage to the abundance of purity over the abundance of impurity, just like there is advantage of a man over a shadow. For a shadow does not exist without man, and only by the man's existence is the shadow given to the tired and exalted. This applies in the same way to the pure and the impure. Will you highlight? The same way that the vast difference between a man and a man's shadow is the same way the Most High sees the pure, the children of Jacob, and the impure, the Edomites. He already said, I don't want them, the impure. I only want the pure. Wow. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 24. For all gates of intelligence are turned around since the death of the 8 branches of the vine. As is found in words of righteousness in the true scroll, but because of the wandering of the sheep, their rest and divisions, intelligence is stopped up until I do greatly in keeping grace. Like I said, we're reading from the literal translation, and I couldn't find another version of Gad the Seer, so that's gobbledygook. I don't know what it really say in a reliable version, but what I just read is gobbledygook. Again, the writer of the literal translation is constantly trying to rewrite any scripture to try to include everybody on the planet. He just does that. I've shown evidence of it. Here's some more. Verse 27, I saw that impurity was driven from the moon and was given over to the consuming wrath, ground into fine dust and blown away by the daily wind. And the day burns as a furnace to remove impurity and to erase the transgressions with your highlight. Verse 29 of chapter 1 of Gad the Seer, and the Lamb was put on the moon forever and ever. And the Lamb took from the pure the impurity that had been mixed with them and brought it to a peace offering sacrifice on the altar before AHAYAH Almighty, zealous AHAYAH of hosts. And I heard those singing the song of the Lamb saying, I will give thanks to you, O Yahweh, for through you and though you were angry with me, you forgave. For Yahweh is my strength and song, and he has become my redeemer with Yahweh. I will sing to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. He has thrown down the horse and his rider into the sea of reeds. Arise, intelligence. Arise, power. Arise, kingship. Arise, majesty and glory. Arise, help from Yahweh. For AHAYAH has saved one who had been taken away and obliterated the impurity from the earth with Yahweh. Who is the impurity? The children of Edom. Edomites. They're going to be taken away. Wrath going to be poured out on them. They're going to be obliterated from the earth forever. Wow. Once again, the cap-banging brothers, ones out there screaming at people. Oh, they write about what's going to be they write about the judgment of the Edomites. No matter where you read, they write about that. I don't know why they don't read Gad the Seer, man. It's even more precepts to the destruction of Edomites. We're reading them today. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 38. He fought my fight and brought into the light my righteousness by his help. My help comes from Yahweh, who made heaven and earth. Truly, who is like you, glorious in holiness, but not in impurity? For you are great over all, raised over all. You spoke and acted, for you declared the end from the beginning. And you sealed everything by your words, and turned my heart and convicted me. For your seal is on me, my most high power. And these are 3 vine branches and 12 palms that are in my heart. You glorified me. Who is it? Who is it speaking? It's the Lamb speaking. Who are the 3 vine branches? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These 3 vine branches got a covenant. Who are these 12 palms in his heart? That the one that the man in white put in his heart, the 12 palms, the three vine branches and the 12 palms were put in his heart. The 12 palms representing the covenant children of Jacob. Who is this Lamb speaking? It's Messiah. The one who was despised and rejected. The one who had his life taken away for transgression. It's all here. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 43 again. For your seal is on me, my AHAYAH, and these are 3 vine branches and 12 palms that are in my heart. You glorified me. You erased the vanity of fearing man, and you gave me a pure heart forever. For that I will praise you at all times and thank you among the nations. For you have greatly redeemed me for my king and showed favor to the chosen one, David's seed. Who's David's seed? Who's sitting on David's throne forever? That's to be Messiah. Forever and ever. And I heard a voice crying from heaven saying, you are my son. You are my firstborn. You are my first fruits. I have not brought you up from the brook of Egypt whole. I have not brought you up from the brook of Egypt wholeheartedly to be my daily delight. But you have given my gifts and dressed up the impure with the pure, and that is why all things have happened to you. See, that don't even make no sense. That don't even make no sense. And who is like unto you among all the creatures on the earth? For they lived in your shadow, and you by your wounds they are healed. For consider well that which is before you, because you have fulfilled the words of the shepherd all the days, all your days, all the days you have been in the sun, and you did not leave them. Therefore all this honor will be yours. And I, Gad, son of Amalek, in the Jabez family of the tribe of Judah, son of Yasha'Allah, was amazed by the vision and could not settle my spirit. And the one dressed in linen came down to me and touched me, saying, Write these words and seal them with the seal of truth. For AHAYAH is my name, and with my name you will bless the whole house of Yasha'Allah. For they are of a true seed. Will you highlight? I'll read it again. This is Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 54. And the one dressed in linen came down to me and touched me, saying, Write these words and seal them with the seal of truth. For AHAYAH is my name, and with my name I will bless the whole house of Yasha'Allah, for they are of a true seed. In a little while you will go and be quietly gathered to your fathers. But at the end of days you will see with your own eyes all these things, not as a vision, but in reality. For in those days they will not be called Jacob, but Yasha'Allah. For no iniquity will be found in their remnant, for they will entirely belong to AHAYAH. Will you highlight? If you go back to Psalms 83, it's the name of Yasha'Allah that has been taken away from the remembrance of men. At no time did the falsehood, Israel, ever leave. But Yasha'Allah, no one even knows what that means. That's one of the reasons here at the House of High, that's all I use. I either call you the children of Jacob, or I'll call you Yasha'Allah. It's one and the same. And it says right here that you should not be no longer known by the name Jacob, but Yasha'Allah. I'll read it again. Gad the Seer, chapter 1, verse 56. For in those days they will not be called Jacob, but Yasha'Allah. For no iniquity will be found in their remnant. Will you highlight? Did not the apostle Saul, whom we all trust, say, though the children of Yasha'Allah be like the sand of the sea, a remnant of them will be saved. A remnant is according to the election of grace. A remnant is according to the election of grace. A remnant of us have been given grace and are saved by grace through faith. Not of ourselves, it is the gift of God. Not of works, lest any man among us boast. For they will entirely belong to AHAYAH. And these words I will restore you. And these words will restore your life and spirit, and this will be the sign to you. When you enter the town, you will find my servant David while he is reading these words from the scroll of the covenant. And yet for all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them, neither will I abhor them, to utterly destroy them, and to break my covenant with them. For I am AHAYAH, their AHAYAH. And you will tell him about the scene you have just seen. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. And it came to pass, when I came to the house of David, the man of AHAYAH, I found him as one dressed in linen, had said, and told him all my visions. And David spoke the words of this song to AHAYAH, saying, I love you, O AHAYAH, my strength. And to me he said, AHAYAH has blessed you and has not removed his covenant from you, for he is true, his word is true, and his seal is true. With AHAYAH. All praises. So I say to you, child, AHAYAH has blessed you. He has blessed you. Why? He has not removed his covenant from you. He is true, and his word is true, and his seal is true. Child of Jacob, you are sealed until the day of redemption. All praises to the Most High, AHAYAH, and to his son, AHAYAH'S, Messiah, Yada, Hayah.